Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Week 14 wraps up tonight. The Tennessee Titans at the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Titans Countdown begins at 6 p.m. Kickoff at 7:15 with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. College basketball, Tennessee grabbing a win over Illinois on Saturday. Latest AP poll having come out this morning. Tennessee moves up to the number 12 spot in the country. On Saturday, a Tennessee Titans and 104.5 The Zone legend was lost as Frank Wycheck passed away at the age of 52. Wycheck's 11-year career included 9 years with the Oilers and Titans and 3 Pro Bowl appearances, of course being involved as well in the Music City Miracle. Before a broadcasting career that followed with The Zone and Titans Radio, Wycheck is a member of the Titans Ring of Honor and a Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, and he will be missed. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on, everybody? Good to have you with us on a Monday edition of Blaine and Mickey. Been a heck of a last few days for a lot of people around Middle Tennessee. Starting with Saturday, you had severe storms rolling through Tennessee, going into Kentucky. 6 people lost their lives, and about 2 dozen sent to the hospital. There was destruction everywhere. Condolences to all the people who were affected by this in any way. And I'm sure our radio station and the people in this community will be rallying around everybody who was affected by this latest round of storms. And thanks to all the first responders and to all the news and weather professionals who worked all day to keep us safe and worked into the night to do that. We appreciate them. And then the news on Sunday that our former coworker here, Blaine's former coworker here and teammate Frank Wycheck had passed away on Saturday. He was 52 years old. He was an Oiler. He was a Titan. He was a longtime coworker of ours on The Zone and Titans Radio. Frank joined the Oilers in 1995 after 2 seasons in Washington. And he made his mark here, and he made 3 Pro Bowls. He threw the most famous lateral in football history. He was
NFL history.
In NFL history, for sure. He was the 4th guy as a tight end to have 500 catches. I mean, it's hard to describe to people what a prolific player he was here. But he was a friend of ours, and I was fortunate enough to know him as long as I did, and Blaine knew him heck of a lot longer than I did. But Steve McNair, we lost him. We've lost Frank now, Josh Evans, and the late, great Rodney Thomas. 4 guys who were
guys who were on that core
who were on that first team. Guys who had the rare trifecta of being Oilers, a Houston Oiler, a Tennessee Oiler, a Tennessee Titan. But it's been a rough weekend for a lot of people, Blaine.
Yeah, you got to say, natural disaster and fall, as we understand it, for Frank Wycheck. So, it's easy to say, but, you really sympathize and want to pray for everybody. And when I heard the news, about the tornado, first thing I thought about you was, all the tornado stuff that you always, everybody be careful and not realizing to understand, like, dang, this thing could actually happen. And then all those families involved, it hurts, let alone when it touched bases with somebody who you were close to in Frank Wycheck. So, prayers, deep thought prayers for everyone, whether you're involved in the weather incident or Frank Wycheck's family. And it really touched me because, Frank and I were that same guy who, I always felt like they were going to get cut and they just always going to work hard to continue to grind and prove that you are who you think you are and what you're capable of doing. Really. So we always, he was the player that really helped make me a better player. And we kind of fed off each other, really, with all his route running ability and his quickness. And he taught me how to play all these, the whip routes and everything. Yeah, practice. So that was really unique in our bond there with our discussions about that. And then getting into radio, definitely used his advice a lot, coming into radio. And then even afterwards, a lot of people didn't even know he was in Chattanooga. I think maybe I told you, Mickey, but he was in Chattanooga. And then we really touched base via text a lot. So he started responding to text. He was kind of an introverted type person, and unbeknown to the fans, he was very nice and cordial to everybody else. But his natural, who he really was. He would respond to text. He was, seemed like he was getting to a real good place. And then just to see people calling me at 8 a.m, I'm like, what's going on? And texting me, and it just to hear that he is no longer with us I didn't want to believe it.
Yeah,
I really did not want to believe it because I felt like I was in touch with him, and some other people were too, but that he was, he was going down the right path as far as his mental health and CTE and everything else involved with the brain injuries. And so, it just pains me that he was taken no different than all those families involved in the tornado. Just he was taken from us way too early. So it just really is devastating, especially when it comes to close to home and somebody you actually know. So this is Frank Wycheck, day, and all the people involved in the tornado. Prayers up for everybody, because this one here touched base at home, because Frank we called him the golden boy. That's what we used to call him on the defensive side of the ball, because everybody knew Frank, and he let everybody in, which was really against, as I said before, who he really was. But he was just a rugged guy who had the same interests as everybody else. And I know everybody puts, professional athletes, actors, people in a celebrity status, when we are just all normal people. We feel like we could be superhuman and do some things at times as an athlete, but at the same time, we're not, and we're just normal people. And I think that's why he connected so much with so many people, especially in the morning shows, him and Mark just going at it. I used to just die laughing, and because they were so serious, especially about that walk. Oh man, that walk stuff was crazy. But I think I probably have a lot more funnier stories to tell from the outside, just listening to him on the morning show. But been working up there with Mike Keith. It was a heck of a run by a great guy, and it's unfortunate he's no longer with us. But man, my former teammate, who was one of our rocks and part of that core group that moved here, that was a Tennessee Oiler. It was funny, and he when he came to us from the Redskins, nobody really knew who he was, because he was in the same class as I was. And then when he came, he had an immediate impact, not just in the games, even at practice, because at that time they were transitioning from, the run and shoot to, a run-dominant team. And so he was a multi-faceted player at that time, where he was, a tight end that could split out, could also kind of play H-back. He could play fullback. They don't make the tight ends. They don't do that now. They're, too tall, or, and he was a pretty big guy too. So there was a lot of things that he was really, really good at, and he kind of fit the mold of this offense that we were running, and really took it to new heights. It really was the key cog to the offense, as well as Eddie George and McNair's development, as far as McNair as a quarterback. But when people played the Tennessee Oilers or the Tennessee Titans, it was stop Eddie George and Wycheck and McNair. That was it. It was, so that was the focal point. So, and then his connection with everybody in the community, especially not only as a player, but then, once he got on air. It's funny, because I wonder what jersey was worn the most? Was it Eddie George McNair or Frank Wycheck? So that's kind of how we remember him. And, man, what a great human being. So unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Pain, this one here, this one touched me. This one, I was nervous all day. Even when I called you guys, I was all over the place. It rattled me. And I'm really hard to rattle. But this one here got me, because I feel like, man, this is super, super close. And just wish I could have been even closer. So naturally, E.G., Eddie George put us all on a text string and called. We all this core group of guys that are going to make sure we're going to intentionally, I guess, meet periodically, not only weekly or but every other month or something, just to make sure we touch base with it, because everybody started their lives and kind of moved on, whether you're here or not here, and it hits you slap in the face. Hate that it had to be someone passing and no longer with us for that to happen, but that's what Frank did. He brought us all back together.
It goes with the lesson about what you said with the storms. People woke up on Saturday morning, they didn't know what was going to happen.
Man, it's crazy.
You got to hug the people that are close to you, tell them you love them. You
can't imagine.
Life is short, and you saying, AG got everybody on a text group, you're going to intentionally spend more time with each other. Unfortunately, it's that reminder again that, man, we're just not promised tomorrow. And, when you talk about somebody like Frank and I sit with you a couple hours every day, and we do the pregame show on Sundays. And the longest time we had Dyson out there with us. And, people come and they bring you guys pictures they took when they were 8 years old with you guys at training camp. With, you were at a function somewhere, or a guy will come up and he'll be wearing his jersey and he'll be like, Blaine, do you remember when you signed this? And I know a lot of times you're like, oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, you probably signed 5,000 jerseys.
Yeah.
It'd be hard for you to
Let me see that picture, man. Let me see.
Help me remember.
Oh, man, that was a long time ago.
You guys have been a part of people's lives around here for 25 years now. Longer than that. 27 years since you've been to Tennessee.
Yeah. 25th anniversary, actually, for the
Titans.
Titans, yes.
And so, this feels like people lost a friend.
Mm-hmm. He
Because
connected with the community.
Yeah.
He was that dude. He was that guy. Frank Wycheck. Love you, brother.
Yeah. All right. Here's what we're going to do. 615-737-1045. If you want to tell a story, you want to get involved, you can do it. You want to put something in the F&M Bank chat. A lot of people are doing that. We appreciate it. You can share your memories. Kevin Ingram, Blaine's teammate and Frank's longtime teammate here on the Zone, is going to check in the next segment, and hope to have Eddie George in the final segment of this hour. Teresa Walker is going to join us in hour number 2. So we're just going to take some time today. We know the Titans play the Dolphins, and we'll certainly get to that, and we'll talk sports. But like Blaine said, today's Frank's day. We want to honor Frank, honor 89. He was our friend, but we know he was your friend too.
Yeah, as well as those victims in the tornado.
Absolutely. And as we have information to give you, I reached out to Rich, who's our promotions guy. Once we have information to give you, go here if you need help, or go, call this number. We'll get out all that information as we get it, to try to help get information to the people who were affected by the storms as well. But it's a heck of a day here. Sun is shining. We got a football game tonight. We'll be happy and celebrate those things. But also, we know a lot of people are hurting today, and we got that on our mind as well. But when we come back, we'll continue the show, and hope to hear from Kevin Ingram soon. Get some of his thoughts as well as yours. Again, 615-737-1045. Let's talk to you about my friends at PAI Medical. They've been in business here in Middle Tennessee for over 26 years. And what have they been helping people do? They've been helping people have their hair back, the hair that they've lost. Ladies and gentlemen who are experiencing hair loss and who choose to do something about it, well, guess what? They'll take your phone call, and they'll come up with a game plan for you. It's all about coming up with a game plan, right? If your game plan has been, guys, just keep getting your hair cut shorter and shorter, maybe buy more hats. Ladies, maybe you've been creative in how you style your hair. How about just styling all of your hair back on your head? You can do it, but you can't get the game plan. You can't get the help if you don't call PAI. You can go to WeGrowHair.com. You can go there right now. You can see real people and real results. And here's the thing. It's like trying to win a football game. There are different game plans for different people. Maybe you're at different stages in the game, right? No different than any ball game that we talk about here on this station. But no matter where you are, they have a solution for you. But again, they can't help you if you don't call. Permanent natural results, your own hair growing on your own head from the company you can trust, PAI Medical Group. WeGrowHair.com. Don't wait. Call today for that free consultation. Tell them I said, hey, 615-376-6010.
McNair takes the snap. Looks, throws into the end zone. Caught! Wycheck! Touchdown! Titans! Frank Wycheck, his 8th grab, his 3rd on this drive. And what a revival for the veteran from Maryland.
Blaine and Mickey doing the show today, remembering your friend, Frank Wycheck, who passed away. Reports are on Saturday. Most of us found out on Sunday. And we're just like you, trying to process what we know and what we're finding out. And Blaine told us he had reached out to a great friend of his and ours in this radio station. And Kevin Ingram was kind enough to join us, and he joins us now. Kevin, on a difficult day, man, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time so much, buddy.
Oh, sure thing. Glad to do it. Yeah, glad to come on and talk about Frank. And a lot of fun times we had doing the radio show and everything else. So, yeah, I really appreciate you guys asking me.
You know, it's crazy, Kevin, because for a whole bunch of people, they know Frank Wycheck, the Titan. Frank Wycheck was a great Titan. He was a great football player. You know, he was a great player at Maryland, and then he goes to the NFL, but he was also a great broadcaster. And I'll just tell you, this is me personally talking. You know, the wake-up zone with you and Kevin, or you and Mark and Frank, that was as good as anybody has done radio in this town.
No question.
We're not sitting here. Nobody's doing anything without the work that guys like you did. And for Frank to have been a part of not only a great football team, but a great radio team, that you and the late now Mark Howard and, you know, Frank, you guys did such great work. And I can't imagine in the heyday of that thing what it was like clocking in every day, especially for you to sit between Frank and Mark and think, I have no idea what's going to happen between these guys every day.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of describing it, because literally I had no idea what was going to happen a whole lot of days. I was kind of the referee for those guys. I always joke I kept them from, like, getting into a fist fight some days. I mean, it was, you know, we'd have some knockdown, drag-out arguments, but it was all sort of been fun and kind of in a pro wrestling sort of way. But man, we had some adventures, we had some goofy bits and things we did. We will probably talk about the walk off and the softball challenges and our trip to the Hall of Fame up in Canton that had a lot of interesting parts to it. But man, I had so much fun with those guys, and then of course with Blaine too, part of our show for 2 or 3 years. It was so much fun all that time I spent with all those guys.
Yeah, on an emotional day, you know, one of the first things Blaine said was he brought up the infamous walk-off, which for people who are new to the city, you know, the 117 people who moved here yesterday and the 117 the day before, can you even just give them the cliff notes for that? Because that may have been one of the most legendary radio things that ever happened in this city.
Yeah, for those 234 people, if my math is right. Well, it started out, you know, Mark had been walking a lot and got into better shape, and he lost some weight, and he's feeling all good. And, you know, he starts to kind of chirp a little on the show about, you know, how he can get out and walk Frank into the ground was the phrase that he used. And that became a legendary phrase of its own after the whole thing was done. But so Frank's like, okay, well, let's, you know, we'll have a walk-off. I don't know if Mark challenged him or if Kaharski was involved, but it developed into this whole thing where we're going to have this walk-off at the downtown YMCA. So we go down there, and we set the whole thing up, and it was supposed to happen like maybe 7 o'clock hour, 8 o'clock hour, and we hyped it up, and then so it's time for the walk-off, and Mark gets out there and gets going, and then I don't know if he pulled a hamstring or had some sort of issue, but he had to shut it down pretty quickly. And by that point, Frank's up there, you know, running laps around the track at the Y downtown, and the whole thing just blowing up. And it was the funniest thing ever just to sit back and watch. Paul Bible was there with me, and Kaharski. We were just sitting there watching this whole thing go down. And, you know, and it got to a point where, like, you know, Frank's like running laps backwards while Mark's trying to, you know, get around the track. And then it just devolved into us playing all these clips from the thing forever, including a clip of Tiger Woods talking about how his glutes weren't firing. Yeah, that was an all-timer. That seems to be a favorite of a lot of people when they talk about our show, and I got to say that was one of my favorites too.
Oh, man, it's still just as funny as it was that day. Kevin Ingram, Zone royalty on with us now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You guys started the 104.5 The Zone in the market and took it over, and everybody's chasing you guys, man. So I was just happy to be a part of it. And Frank told me, don't F that up, man. We did a good job there. So my job was just to ease in there and just sit back. I was never going to be Frank, and I was never going to sit there and argue with Mark. So that was a losing battle to me. So take us through one of the, even if it's something really small, one of those epic battles of argument, because it was just funny to see Frank always poke Mark, and then he would just fall for it every time. It could have been something not of substance, but still was one that you probably remember the most.
Oh, there are all kinds of them, because I mean, we'd argue about football and baseball, and like, we had this whole thing about the Jeter play in that playoff game against Oakland, and Mark's like, he could have died, and Frank was, jumped all over that. I think we all did on that play. They just had some epic arguments about everything under the sun, and we'd talk about rock and roll and wrestling and Star Wars movies and all that stuff. I think that's really where I connected well with Frank, was for as much of a all pro football player as he was, he really had a geeky side too, and I liked a lot of the same stuff that he did when it came to like old tired rock bands and talking about Star Wars and all this stuff.
Because birthdays were close too, right?
They were, yeah. We were actually 2 weeks apart. Like his is in the middle of October, mine's early November. But me and Frank and Paul Bible are all born within like a month and a half of each other, so we all related well in that way, and that we had a lot of similar experiences when we grew up, so we all connected well there. But yeah, Mark and Frank just battling it out over everything, and we would devolve into smack talk about donut eating contests. We did that a lot when we were sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts. We had a donut eating belt, and that it got retired. Somebody has the belt somewhere. I don't know whatever happened to it, but those guys would have contests with listeners, and I don't know. We it just felt like we went down every avenue you could in arguing about stuff. We did brackets, for cereal, and I just all those sorts of things. Especially in the summertime when there wasn't a lot going on, we kind of drift off into other things. But yeah, it was a lot of funny stuff between those two. And it was fun just to sit back and let them argue about everything.
Oh yeah, no doubt. That's you been the point guard and the best in the business that you were. I guess tell us something about the Canton story.
The Canton story. Okay, so when Bruce Matthews got in the Hall of Fame, and that was in about 2007, and so me and Mark and Frank and Brad Willis, who was our program director back then, they booked us a private plane to fly up to Canton to do our show, like on the Friday, maybe on the Thursday and the Friday, and then we did a special show, leading into Bruce Matthews being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And so there were a lot of adventures to that trip. We did our show, and then we took a tour of the Hall of Fame, and we go in and we watch this movie about the history of football. So they dim the lights, and again, this is after we'd done our show, and all of a sudden you hear somebody snoring, and it's Mark. And he's fallen asleep during the history of football. And so, Frank and I never let him hear the end of that one. And then on the Saturday, we went out to this golf tournament. They were having like the PGA Tour event in Akron. So we went over to Firestone and saw that. And we go out to the driving range, and Frank knows Fred Funk, who he had known from Maryland, who was on the PGA Tour back then. And so, Frank's trying to get his attention. He keeps hollering at him, and it's like, "Hey, Freddie!" And Fred Funk doesn't really realize who it is, and he just kind of gives him, "Oh, hey, buddy!" And then you like walk right past him. And Frank's getting more bent out of shape by the minute here when Fred Funk is just kind of giving him the brush off a couple times, and I'm watching all this just rolling, because it's like, okay, Frank, you're kind of seeing how the other half lives here a little bit, but he finally got his attention, and Fred Funk figured out who it was, and I don't know, it seemed like there was an issue with the plane or something when we were flying up there. But yeah, that was a trip of legend. There was a lot of stuff that went into that one, but it was a lot of fun. It was really special to be there at the Hall of Fame, especially when with Bruce Matthews getting inducted, and how much that meant to Frank to be there. I mean, that was really, really important for him, and it was cool to be a part of that whole thing.
Yeah, that's outstanding. There, we on with Kevin Ingram, former host of 104.5 The Zone, morning show.
Kevin, you got to work with Frank, you got to work with Blaine, and I've worked with Blaine and all these years, and also done a lot of work on pre and post with Dyson. To me, it's always interesting when you go places with them, because people don't just connect with them as Titans. Like, I remember that time, Blaine, that you hit this guy so hard, or Frank, I remember that touchdown you scored. I've always been amazed at how many people have personal stories about all of the guys from their era. It's like they had themselves cloned, and they went to everything that happened in Middle Tennessee or South Central Kentucky for years. Like, people will bring a picture of Blaine and be like, this is you holding me as a baby. And it's like
that means I'm old.
but I imagine you got a lot of that with Frank too, or somebody would come in and go, "Hey, this is my jersey I bought when I was a kid, but you signed it," and it's like, "Oh, was it at a training camp?" Like, "No, you came to my school," or "No, you were at my bar mitzvah." It's just amazing the ground that these guys covered to essentially go out and sell pro football to people in Middle Tennessee when they got here.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, those guys are great ambassadors. You're talking about Blaine or Frank or Steve and Eddie, and the players from that era. You think about Marcus Robertson, Blaine. I know was your running mate there in the safety spots. I mean, those guys that came here from Houston and were part of that first Titans team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl. I think fans connected with that group maybe more than any other team since then. Because they just, whatever it was, they just identified with that team because it was so special, and you had such good teams and good seasons during that stretch, and the Super Bowl run was so cool with the miracle play, and then those wins in Indy and in Jacksonville to get to the Super Bowl. But you guys are just such great ambassadors for football coming to Nashville, pro football coming to this city. And it's just been neat to see people still identify so much with those players from that era. And, man, I mean, you guys see it and go to the games. You still see a 23 Bishop jersey. You see an 89 Wycheck or, a number 9 for McNair or 27 for Eddie. All those, Javon, you see his jersey too. You see all those still at the games even now. Some of them are a little more faded than others. But that you guys and those teams just really connected with the fan base in a way that was just really, really special.
How long was it for you till you realized what you guys had was special on the Wake Up Zone? Because, chemistry when you're in a room with people, but then like you go to the grocery store or the bowling alley or church and people, tug you on the arm and tell you, how long was it until you realized you'd hit on something
special?
I think we had pretty good chemistry from the start. I knew Mark a little. I knew Frank a little, just from covering the team a little bit during the years at the end of his career. But I didn't know either one of them really, really well. And I never met Paul, our producer, before we started doing the show together. But I think we figured out early on that we had good chemistry. And then by the time a year or two went by, things started to really get rolling. And I was asked earlier about, did you realize in the moment that the thing was as big as it was? And I don't think I ever really did. Like, to me, it was always, doing a radio show and I'm having fun and working with my friends. And, I go in and do the show and then I go on with the rest of my day. And to have people tell me now that they grew up, riding with their parents in the car, listening to our show, or, the influence that it had on people who got into broadcasting, to me, that's really something to hear. But yeah, I think we figured out that we had hit on something pretty good, within, I don't know if a few months or a couple of years, but, once it kind of took off, you could definitely feel some momentum. But in the moment, like, I probably didn't really realize or appreciate it maybe as much as I should have.
Kevin Ingram hanging out with us, legend from this radio station right here.
Well, before we let you go, Kevin, man, thanks for coming on first and foremost. But I have to ask you this one question. I know Frank and all of us, athletes, and when we played, we thought we were invincible, and we all in our minds felt like, certain plays stood out in our minds. Outside of Music City Miracle, did Frank ever hit around with what was one of his favorite plays outside of that Music City Miracle play?
Yeah,
he always talked about how he was a great passer. He used to, I'm like, oh man, come on, man. He's like, man, I'm
like 5 of 6 or 6 of 7. Yeah,
I mean, I need to be playing quarterback.
Yeah, wasn't his passer rating was like 158 or something? Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect passer rating. Yes.
But did he ever talk about a play outside of that play? I mean, just
one play he talked about that really got me. That didn't really materialize maybe the way it was expected was at the end of the Super Bowl game. I remember him talking about this, and it just kind of gave me chills to hear him say this. Like he's like, yeah, when we were getting ready to line up for that last play, which of course went to Kevin Dyson, he stretched the ball out.
I just knew it was going to Frank, though. I knew it was.
Right, and that's what Frank said too. He said, "I'm like, when we broke the huddle and went to line up, I was like, Steve's going to throw the ball to me, and we're going to tie. This is the last play of the Super Bowl. It's coming to me, and that really got me to hear him talk about that. And then another one that I thought was cool to hear him talk about actually turned out to be the last game of his career when the Titans played in New England in that frigid playoff game, and him talking about how they went over to a mall that was like next to the hotel, and they weren't really, they knew it was like, it's going to be cold, but then when they walked outside, they're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be freezing, man. I don't know how we're going to deal with this, but he talked about a lot of things like that. To me, the cool stuff was him talking about just the little things that happened during games that weren't necessarily big plays, like the time that the Titans were playing in the AFC Championship game in 2002 in Oakland, and LL Cool J was performing at halftime, and the Titans were coming out of the tunnel to go back out and get ready for the second half. And I guess it was the whole concert part was a little slow getting off the field, and they had this big shouting match. I can't remember who it was. I think it was one of the linemen got into a shouting match with LL Cool J, and Frank is just like sitting there laughing at the whole thing. And like that to me is the stuff that I think is really funny. But the play at the end of the Super Bowl, that was really interesting to hear him talk about.
Did he go into detail like the route or what he covered, or he was just stunned that he didn't throw him the ball?
I mean, I think it was kind of one of those typical, the tight end just gets open however you can, in a short yardage situation there in the end zone, and then you just try to get underneath somebody and be there to make a catch. Blaine, I can't remember exactly how he described the play itself, but he seemed like he was pretty sure that it might be coming in his direction. He was like, "Oh my gosh, this is it, man. We're gonna catch this, and we're gonna, I guess at that point, tie up the Super Bowl." But that was pretty neat.
There you have it from the VOT there, Kevin Ingram.
Kevin, hey, thank you, man. We appreciate the time. I know it's been a difficult last couple of days for you, like so many, but I heard an interview with Eddie George, and he's going to come on with us next, and he said, give people their flowers. So I'll give you some flowers. You're one of the best people to do this job that we get to do, and you've done such great work in this city, and you're special to people, too, and you're special to us, and we just appreciate the time today, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that, Mickey, and you and Blaine are great friends, and it'll remain that way. But, man, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here, and just want to express sympathies to Frank's family and friends, and Blaine and you and all the other former Titans teammates and his family. So, I'll be thinking about you guys and Frank's family, too, but really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Well, cool. Anything you want to talk about or discuss about what you're doing now today?
Just of course, working with Vanderbilt. Basketball season's underway. We've got a little break here. It's finals week for the players, so we've got a few days off. We'll be back at it on Saturday. We'll be down in Fort Worth. Vanderbilt plays Texas Tech, so hoping to get back in the win column on Saturday, but just have a lot of fun doing what I'm doing.
Well, cool. And it comes across in everything you do, buddy. Thank you, and travel safe as you go down there. And, of course, we'll be listening to you do all these Vanderbilt games. Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
Yes, sir. One of the best to do it and still just crushing it at Vanderbilt, Kevin Ingram. All right, when we come back, supposed to talk to Eddie George, Titans running back, teammate of Blaine's, teammate of Frank Wycheck. We're going to reach out, try to get in touch with him. And, again, also love to take your calls, your stories today as we remember our friend Frank Wycheck, 615-737-1045.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 24 years. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in his backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is give them a call at 844-EURO-FIX. That's right, 844-EURO-FIX, or you can just visit them online at myEuroFix.com. That's myEuroFix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
McNair. Long count. Takes a straight drop. Looks. Steps up. Fires downfield. Ball caught. Wycheck. 10. 5. Driving for the goal line. End zone. Touchdown Titans. Frank Wycheck. Cast off by the Redskins. Cashes it in. And Tennessee is in front by 12.
Blaine and Mickey, having a Monday show remembering our friend Frank Wycheck, and we hope you're doing the same. Remembering him as a friend, as a teammate, and as a guy who meant a lot to all of us and to this community. And we'll bring in another special guest now, a teammate of his, a teammate of Blaine Bishop. And Blaine, I'll let you take over as we say hello to the one and only Eddie George, who joins us now.
Yeah, appreciate that, EG, for coming on. Unfortunately, it's at a tough time, and I kind of want you to kind of take the floor as you always do, and do an exceptional job being in the forefront of leadership of the group that moved here and took over this town by storm, and kind of speak on Frank Wycheck and your memories of Frank Wycheck.
Yeah, man. Well, we talked earlier, Blaine, and you just try to find the words. I'm in disbelief. You're hurt. You're sad. You get excited. You laugh about the good times.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going through my array of emotions because I've been on the road and I'm doing my thing. And then there's moments when I stop and I think about something, or I look at pictures and I begin to cry. And, it's exhausting because we've been down this road before, with Steve, with Josh Evans, with Rodney Thomas, and now Frank, all before the age of 50. And you never know when your time is going to be up, when it's going to be called. And we get so caught into our own lives and our own stuff. And, I'm a big victim of it. I'm doing so much myself, and that we don't reach out to our teammates and check up on them. And you feel guilty sometimes because he's like, man, I should have called, I should have done this. But no, you should never feel guilty because our love extends beyond just a phone call. You know what I'm saying? And that's what, we have to understand is that, yes, we all have our purpose in life. Yes, we do. And, but my love for Frank, man, goes beyond the football field. He was a guy that took me under his wing when I was a rookie in Houston and encouraged me. We share a love of Philadelphia. We're both from the area. I remember Frank growing up in Philadelphia when he was going to high school there. We have a mutual friend in Kevin Plank, who's the CEO of Under Armour.
Right.
And he told me in '97 in the locker room at Baptist, in one of the illustrious locker room at Baptist.
Yeah. Nice big locker room.
Right. He says, EG, man, you got to invest with Kevin, man. I mean, he's going to do big things. I'm like, Frank, man, I'm not investing in no T-shirt company, man. I'll wear it, but I invest in it. And 2 years later, 3 years later, it goes public. He says, See, EG, I told you it was going to blow up.
In that Frank Wycheck voice, right? That high pitch. See, man, I told you.
Yeah, man. He had a high pitched voice, but he would split your wig.
Yeah.
And, it's unfortunate, man, that, we have to talk about him in this regard. Because, I would love to have a day where me and you and Mark Robb, the Freak, and Samari and Steve and just sit around, we talk about the good old days. Because every year, every decade, you extract something different from our time together, something of value, you know what I'm saying, what it meant, and it means something different. We all had our own ambitions, we all had our own goals and desires, but we understood the true value of team. And this is where race doesn't matter, how much money you make doesn't matter. When you are grinding next to the man next to you and you are trusting in him wholeheartedly, that is your brother. You are connected, on a soul level.
Forever.
You know what I'm saying? I know I'm rambling because I don't know what to say. I'm just speaking, from the
From your heart,
spirit,
man.
Yeah.
and you know, um, I miss Frank. I wish I could have told him I loved him. I appreciate him, man. Just gone too soon, and we had to, at some point, turn the page from the shock and the sting and the hurt of the death, and began to really appreciate and celebrate his life.
Mm. Well, with Eddie George, our leader and forefront of everything of the team that moved to Tennessee.
Eddie, there's a picture of you and Frank, and your arms are locked. It looks to be in Jacksonville. I think we probably all know what day that was taken. That's certainly a moment and a memory that's burned into a lot of our minds. Do you have a favorite play or moment between you and Frank that you could talk about? Because, again, this picture is just amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
Or did y'all start doing that after every game? Or what was that? Yeah. Because I see that everywhere.
We did that. That was like an interlock, we used to call it. After a big play or after a big game or after a win, we would just lock arms. You know what I mean? I think I got it off of a Pete Rock and CL Smooth video I saw. And I thought it was really cool, like the celebration. I wasn't big on dancing and all that nonsense that the choreograph. I was just, about my business and just that was just something that we kind of did. We won a game or had a touchdown, and it was just, man, we were interlocked in brothers, man, and that was after we beat Jacksonville for the third time, going to the AFC Championship game. I'll never forget that moment. And that was a real special moment, man.
I know Blaine has always talked about you and y'all's friendship and your leadership, and we were talking about this earlier. You said something last night that was, I just thought, a beautiful sentiment. I actually shared it when we started the show. It was, I believe you did a hit with Channel 2 News, and you said it's important to give people their flowers while they can still get them.
Yeah,
it's important to tell people what they mean while you still can. I got to tell you, man, that it took me a minute to get myself together after hearing you say that last night.
Yeah, I mean, it's events like this, unfortunately, that make you reflect and be present in the moment. Now, I'm sorry, I'm in a cab in New York, so if you hear something, just
Got you. I appreciate your time.
But no, it's all good. But like I just took time out today in between me moving around and shaking, and all I'm doing is to call every teammate and tell them, check on them with the situation where we're at, because again, this group, this particular unit has been hit by some heavy blows when it comes to death. And at some point we're going to have to get together and just be us. No cameras, no radio, and just get around the guys and just be raw. There's no agenda to cry, have a big cry session, none of that. If it gets to that, that's fine. But we need each other to heal, because we shared something so great and so grand and so beautiful that only we can understand that, and we need each other now. I had to call Brad today. I called B-Hop and in tears. Like, I just need somebody to talk to. I just needed him just to listen, because it was it's levels of frustration. He's grieving, and it's amazing because this brings up the same grieving that I had for Steve, and you're still going through it. It's just different now. You know what I'm saying? So we just need a win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on. I know we're all you started the texturing and everything else with everybody on there to make sure that we are intentional, as you said, to make sure that we get together at some point in time at different times, and to make sure the bond that we have, regardless we hadn't seen each other in years or talked to each other or seeing people all the time, that we get together, and it's something that can't be broke. That bond will always be there, because we had a special group of guys that not only because we moved here and we had success, but we had success because we played together as a unit, and that brotherhood will never be forgotten. So I just appreciate you taking out the time. I know you Eddie George, and there's a lot of things going on around, but at the same time, that's what makes you special, and that you made enough time, even in a taxi drive, to come and speak on Frank Wycheck. So, man, I really appreciate it, and, man, take care of you and your family, and keep doing your thing, brother.
Yeah, man, love you, bro.
All right, man, take care. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you, Eddie. Eddie George, Titans running back, now TSU head coach, out there doing his business today and taking time on a busy and difficult day to check in with us. We appreciate it, and getting several messages from people who are just very much appreciating hearing from him today, and hearing from Kevin Ingram as well. And we want to hear from you in hour number 2 of the show. Teresa Walker, is coming up in about 20 minutes or so. We'll have Teresa. We'll get her memories of Frank. She wrote just a beautiful story about him, but the phone lines are open. 615.
I want to hear from you, the fans.
Absolutely. Your stories, your interactions with Frank, we'd love to hear them. 615-737-1045. It's Blaine and Mickey. It's all right, man. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Thanks for hanging out with us on a tough Monday for a lot of people. We really appreciate Kevin Ingram for joining us, who is royalty to the brotherhood here at The Zone. And we appreciate Eddie George joining us, who is royalty to Titans fans and a legend in this community and still doing fantastic work at Tennessee State. And Blaine shared his thoughts off the top of the show as we remember our friend Frank Wycheck today. And that's what we've been doing. Just been sharing stories and, shed a tear or two and had a laugh or two.
Yeah.
But
Range of emotions right there.
it has been the full range. Blaine,
Like everybody else who's going through a loss, especially the tornado victims as well.
and I appreciate you bringing that up. So the storms come through on Saturday into Tennessee and into Kentucky. 6 people lost their lives, so that means the friends and families of those 6 people, they lost everything. Then people lost their homes and their churches and their businesses, and they saw their stuff get torn up. And we're thinking about them today. Just a lot of destruction everywhere. And there were first responders who went straight into trouble and tried to help people and continued to do that, and volunteers and all the news and the weather professionals who did 12-hour shifts on Saturday. Lisa Spencer and Danielle Breezy and Leland Statham and all their, I don't have time to name everybody, but all those people, I watched it. Blaine knows that I watched the weather, and they just did
I
unbelievable.
rely on you.
Well, I try to keep you updated.
Just like Nolan and everybody else.
I try to take the lead on that part of the team here. I'm director of weather and letting you and Joseph know what's going on, but people just did unbelievable work in the face of great adversity, and we're thinking about everybody who was affected by that. Then we get the news on Sunday. And I say this because he felt like a friend to everybody. We knew him personally, but a lot of you felt like you did too, and you had good reason to. Our friend Frank Wycheck passed away at the age of 52, much too young. And we just been in our feelings today talking about. Like, we got a whole bunch of phone calls. You want to hear from some people about our friend Frank?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. We'll start with Jason in Franklin, 615-737-1045. Stories, memories. We want to hear it all. Jason, thank you for calling.
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you for saying everything that you guys have said today about Frank. Just wanted to send out my thoughts and prayers to his family. I don't really have any kind of connection with Frank. I just know that I genuinely enjoyed listening to him and in the mornings, 5, 6, 7 years ago before COVID, and it was one of the reasons why I listened to it every single morning going to work. So loved what he did for the city of Nashville, loved what he did for our Tennessee Titans fan base and just everything. He was one of those guys that you just root for in life. And it's hit me today. So tighten up.
Appreciate
this one's for Frank tonight. Love you guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. 89.
Yeah, hitting a lot of people. Let's get Erica in. I know she says a friend of Frank's, one of the many people in the community he got to know. Erica, thank you for calling.
I've heard a lot today that Frank was an introvert. And Blaine, I'm sorry, but I kind of disagree with you. Once he got to know you, he wasn't so introverted after all.
Right, yeah, exactly. When he got to know you, absolutely.
When he got to know you, no, he had his opinions and he shared them. I was taking therapy and they decided to do pool therapy. And I know you two know that I have cerebral palsy and I use a wheelchair. My mom made a video of me taking 3 steps in water. And Frank just flipped out. I'm like, dude, somebody was holding me. It wasn't like I walked on water. Yeah. But I've never seen you take steps before. And I mean, even I talked to him Thanksgiving Day. He was laughing about the grandkids and said, I'm going to have a lap full of grandkids and that's what I want. So, that's just the kind of person. Once you got to know him, no, he was all in or nothing,
Definitely.
So that's the kind of person we need to remember. Not just the Music City Miracles and the 500 catches, but the guy outside of that.
No doubt. Great call, Erica.
Yeah, thank you, Erica, for sure. Let's get Eric in Nashville next. Hey, Eric.
Hey, guys, I tell you what, I first met Frank, this is going back a ways, when he was at Rio Bravo, showed up from time to time remotes after games when they played at Vanderbilt. Because I actually lived across the street from the Rio Bravo and stuff like that, so even if I didn't get to go to the game, I'd sometimes would show up there, but I got to go to 2 or 3 games that year. I also remember the Music City Miracle at the Wild Horse, and it was just insane. I didn't have season tickets then, but I got the season tickets when they made the run to Super Bowl. I've had them ever since. And just Frank, just his personality was gregarious, and also with Kenny the mailman, we met him one time downtown. I think it was at an event after, I think it was the TNA event at the Wild Horse, and we got to talk to him for a few minutes and stuff. But he knows us, would always say hello to us. But one of the funniest stories I ever remember, I think Kenny the mailman won some like free tickets from this radio station for a TNA, I think, wrestling event that Frank was wrestling in. I can't remember if he was wrestling as a single or as a tag team or whatever, and I don't remember the other wrestlers involved. It may have been, I don't know if it was Jeff Jarrett or Cowboy James Storm or something like that. But I think Frank's side won the match. I think he may have even got the pin. But what was funny is I think a couple of wrestlers were going to try and jump him, but he had a couple of Titans teammates kind of, hold it off. It was just real hilarious. It just had a good time. And, I remember him from the days in the Wake Up Zone. And, guys, he definitely will be truly missed. Frank was a character, but I just love the fact that he was just always engaging and personable with the fans. And he would sign autographs and everything like that. But just he pretty much remembered me every time he saw me and stuff. I, of course, hadn't seen him in a long time since everything that he went through with the concussion and everything. But he will be truly missed. Some thoughts and prayers were with him and his family, and he will be truly missed. Guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you sharing that. Jeff in Watertown up next. Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, I never met Frank. I watched him on the field. I'm an old school Titan. When they first came here, that's when we fell in love with y'all.
Yeah.
I'm just sad for the family. I'm sad for the Titan organization, especially his teammates, Blaine, and just we're all hurting for y'all, and our prayers are going out to you and your families. That's all I wanted to say. It's just I heard about it this morning when I got up. I didn't have the radio or TV on or anything, and my wife yelled at me through the other into the house. Did you hear about Frank Wycheck? And it sunk my heart when she told me. But just know that all Tennessee is praying for you. We love Frank and we love the Titans. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your stories. It's raw emotions. You can share them right here. Mark checking in next. Hey, Mark.
Good afternoon, guys. How are you?
Good afternoon.
First of all, prayers to all the storm victims over the weekend, and to you, Blaine, and the other teammates. Tell you what, when you guys come to town, y'all put Nashville on the big map, and I appreciate that so much.
Sure
and
did.
Frank was part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to, when him and Mike were doing the broadcast, I would watch the game but listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were playing Arizona, we had Mitch Young, and y'all remember that 99-yard drive when we beat Arizona?
Yes.
Yeah, here in the house.
Yeah.
Well, Frank was on there, and he just went wild after that touchdown pass to Kenny Britt. And he said, Vince, he's done it again. And he paused for me, and he said, and he's done it to Leinart again.
I got him. Oh, man.
That's right.
I just cracked up, and I used to love to hear him imitate John McClane on the morning. There's so many Frank stories, but I tell you what, guys, it's Blaine, Mickey, and to all the Titans teammates. It's just my prayers go out to you guys. And Frank, listen, man, you were great. Y'all have a good Christmas. Thanks a lot.
Mark, beautiful story, man. Thank you. Thank you. Great story. Let's get Joey next in Cross Plains. Hey, Joey, appreciate you checking in today.
Hey, buddies.
Yeah, that was Frankie right there. Hey, buddies.
That was Frankie.
Yeah.
He always, like, when you called in, and I never got the meeting because I was, always working. But when, like the last caller said, on the radio and, on the broadcast, man, he was almost like a Coach Mack. He brought you
into actually what was going on. And it was always, and when you called in to talk to him, it was always, "Hey, buddy," like he made you feel like he was really, really paying attention. Like it was just you and him in a conversation.
Yeah.
And it was like I was, saying when I called in that, man, he's one of the I lost my vision a decade ago, but I still remember him and Mike Keith on the radio, and he was one of the big inspirations on why right now that I'm going back to school for sports communication with concentrations in sports media and sports broadcasting, and he's one of the big reasons why, man. I mean, he was just such a great person, and all these stories, man, it just have filled my heart and everything. He was such a great guy, man. He's one of those that he's going to be missed, and it just sucks. And I lift my prayers up to the family, and the whole Titans organization and his teammates, like you and you, Blaine and Eddie and B Hop and all them, man. I don't even know, man. It's a hard day for me, man. But guys, I love y'all, and y'all be blessed, and we'll holler at you later.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you, man. Good to hear from you. And
we want to wait till we go to break.
Yeah, we've got Teresa Walker coming up. If you're on hold, we do have Teresa scheduled, and Teresa covered all the Franks games, every last one of them from the beginning, and Blaine's too. So we're going to talk to our buddy Teresa. When we finish with her, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll take all the phone calls that are left. You can hold or you can call back at the end of that segment. But, again, we know the Titans play tonight. We know they want to get a win in a tough place to play in Miami. But today belongs to 89. We're going to keep doing that too. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Just appreciate so much all of your time and participation in what has been a tough show today. We know a lot of you are hurting, and a lot of you are sad, and you went through a tough weekend with the storms, and then you lost a friend in Frank Wycheck, and we lost a friend as well. And we've just been trying to keep the phones open and trying to keep the lines of communication open today to let people just say what's on their mind and tell stories. And wanted to make sure that we brought in Teresa Walker today, our friend in the Associated Press, Hall of Fame writer who has covered this team since they've been here. And Teresa, one of the first things I saw on Twitter, and we appreciate your time today very much, you tweeted out the link to your story with the Associated Press, and I would advise everyone to consume it, to find it and read it. You said, the story I never wanted to write. I can't imagine how hard this was for you to write a story about somebody that you knew as well as you knew Frank.
Well, that's the thing is journalists, and for folks who hear this, it might freak you out a little bit, but, for high-profile people, we do obit preparation. We've got a whole file for them, with X's, and for age, their birthday, so that we can double-check things like that, because it's news when somebody of note passes. I mean, I helped with the obituary for the late Pat Summitt. There's prep on lots of people. There's people, we did actually our first prep on Pat Summitt after the late Payne Stewart's horrible plane accident, because it's like, wait a minute, these people are in planes an awful lot. So you do that kind of thing. And ironically, I had actually told somebody last week that I knew I needed to do this, because unfortunately those of us who've been around, we knew what Frank had been going through in recent years, and I knew I needed to do that. I couldn't bring myself to do that. And when I saw the release yesterday from the company, Teresa, she used to work for the Titans, and with the family's confirmation, it met all the AP requirements. The team had story from Jim Wyatt, and there was the social media. So it's like I shifted into mode, but then it's like I sat for a second, and it's like, guys, that's one of the toughest stories I've ever written. And I mean, we've been through this before. Steve McNair, Rob Baronis, that was a stunner. And this one, even knowing it was coming, because Frank was such a sweet guy, and such a hardworking guy, always available, such a sweet guy, that it was just a kick to the teeth.
The thing that has struck me the most, I've been on the air today. I was on the air on this station the day after Steve McNair died, and I was struck then, and I've been struck again with how many people have a personal story about Steve or Frank or Blaine or Eddie or Dyson. They were so involved in the community and still are today. Blaine would never toot his own horn, but seems like 5 times a month he leaves here and we talk about what we're going to go do. And he goes, well, I'm on a board for a charity, or I'm volunteering for this charity, or I'm going to go help with this. They all still do the same stuff. Blaine is much or more than anybody. But people really, they're so connected to that first group of Titans. I mean, they truly, in a lot of cases, had personal interaction and literally knew these guys in a lot of personal ways. That's what makes this hurt so bad.
Well, exactly. I mean, if you didn't come out to a training camp practice and get an autograph, or go to a charity event, or shoot when he was doing working for this station on the morning show, or listening to him call games when he was the color commentator with Mike Keith. I mean, there were so many ways to connect, and that first 5 years of the Titans, I think people who've moved here in the last few decade or so don't get how, guys, it's literally like the switch was flipped, okay? Blaine knows this so well. I mean, nobody cared about this team when they played in 97 in Memphis or at Vandy in 98, but then the new nickname, the new uniforms, the new stadium, and then going 13-3, and then Frank and that Music City Miracle, guys. I mean, my colleague, I was not writing the main bar that day. My colleague Barry Wilner was, who's now retired from AP, and he had covered the Buffalo win over Houston in the playoffs, the big Houston Oilers collapse. he turned to me right before the kickoff by the Bills, and he said, "Don't worry, your team's not out of it. I always get the weird ones." And I was standing getting ready to go down to the locker room, and to watch that, and Frank, I mean, perfect passer rating. I mean, the guy who led this team in receptions for 3 straight seasons had a perfect passer rating. And I was almost on a line in the press box with that. And to see that ball, I knew it was a lateral. I just was afraid that maybe there might not be a video, a TV angle. Because, Jeff Fisher, this team so many times has gotten the 4th, 5th, 6th crew, and there's not as many cameras at those games as there are a primetime game like tonight. And it depends on what angle they get as to whether or not they uphold or overturn something. And I'm like, that was a lateral. Will it stand? And some of the long, I don't know if I breathed. I don't know if anyone in that stadium breathed until the official came out from under the hood and gave us that announcement that the touchdown stood. And it was just such a moment. And, Frank executed in that moment like he did in everything that he ever tried to do.
Yeah, sure did. Teresa Walker joining us to share memories and thoughts of Frank Wycheck.
Well, T, man, I guess the history of Frank Wycheck as a player, but then as a broadcaster, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think he's more remembered for outside of the Music City Miracle, as a broadcaster or more so because the Hey Buddy and all that, or as a player?
It's a great question, Blaine, because, there's those of us of a generation that are going to remember him for the Music City Miracle and for as a player and, being that guy who always found a way to be open for Steve and was always making plays in the blue and white. And then there's going to be that generation that, well, more like my son, who was, my son was a baby. He's now almost 25, but he was a baby. He's seen Music City Miracle. He's watched some of those games, strangely enough, on YouTube to catch up on some of the plays from those days. But, his generation knows him more as a broadcaster for calling those Titan games and things like that. So, and he did it for such a long period after his retirement. So, you're going to have that good mix. But if you haven't seen it, I'll just remind you, go on, and my story has the link to the play. Go just YouTube it. Music City Miracle. There's a reason when the NFL celebrated its 100th anniversary in 2019, guys, that they also, the Music City Miracle was the 4th greatest play of the first 100 years. It was so unexpected. It launched that run to Atlanta and the Super Bowl. I mean, it was stunning, a stunning comeback because, people were, photographers were in position on the Buffalo sideline to take pictures of the celebration by the Bills. The Bills got out of their gaps. And, to this day, Buffalo fans still insist that was a forward pass. And as Frank once described it, it was the illusion of it. I fell backward the way I jumped up and threw it. And then Roy Dyson kind of stretched that leg and then stretched back to make the catch. If you look at it, Titan fans absolutely know it was a lateral. Bills fans will insist to the dang breath that it was a forward pass. But it is still one of the greatest plays in NFL history. So I'm going to remember him as Frank Wycheck, the guy that every time I needed to talk to him, he would respond. And even after even when he was dealing with CTE, I talked to him when Wes Welker was trying to come back from a concussion, and he talked about the challenges of that. And he was open with his issues. That's why in the statement yesterday, his family made clear they're going to honor his wishes, to help contribute towards CTE and brain research for traumatic brain injuries. And he I won't be surprised. I don't think any of us will be surprised if there is CTE damage there. He was pretty sure that's what he was suffering from. And he always made time to talk after the worst loss, the best win. and at some of the toughest times of his life. He always made time to talk because he wanted to share what he saw as a person. And you guys have been in this long enough. Sometimes there's folks that you have plenty of great reasons you do not want to talk. And, as human beings, we understand that. And Frank always made time to talk. And I hope I always made that clear to him, how much I always appreciated him for being that kind of a human being.
Well, I guess on a different note, let's talk about a little bit about what the Titans will be facing tonight on Monday night. Tough transition, but man, they may have a tough task here. What do you think about what's going to happen tonight?
Well, considering what happened yesterday, put the Titans closer to the top of the NFL draft order, and the Dolphins with the win can move to the top seed again in the AFC. Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but we find Mike Vrabel and his teams have found ways to make games tougher, uglier than they need to be, and this team found their run game again last week. So if they can run the ball against the Miami Dolphins, that's going to be a big key. They ran for 100. The Titans ran for 177 yards last week, and that's a big number. And think about it. Derrick Henry was not on the field. He left with about 10.5 minutes left in that game. Now the challenge, Miami's defense is 8th against the run. So that's, they're really good across the board. I mean, so that's going to be the challenge. Can they find a way to play keep away? And Blaine, you were on some teams that did that very, very well with Steve and Eddie. And Derek and Tajay Spears are two guys that can do that. If they can put together, and come out in the third quarter and put together a drive and actually stay on the field more than 3 and out, then they're going to have a chance. They're going to have to find a way to protect the punter, a new punter in Zentner. They're going to have to find a way to, the defense is going to have to help them out, let's be honest, and find a way to get Tua off of his first read. So, but you know what? There's a reason they play the game. And I'm just, So don't tune in expecting that it's going to absolutely be a blowout. I know that the point spread is not pretty. But you know what? This game can't be as bad as the last trip to Miami for Mike Vrabel and the Titans.
Oh, yeah, that was how many? It was 7 hours or something?
I think it just ended.
Yeah.
7 hours and 8 minutes. And, yes, it does feel like it just ended, Mickey.
No doubt about it. And with Hall of Fame writer Teresa Walker.
They've talked about the managers were going and buying them food from the concession stand.
Oh,
yes.
Mini pizzas and the food that was there for the after part. Usually there's food waiting so they can take it and go eat it on the way to the airport.
Yep.
That was eaten. I mean, they were starving when they got home because they I don't know about you, but I took a nap during that game. It's like, wake me up when they come back on the air. And guys, I mean, it never rained over Hard Rock Cafe or the Hard Rock Stadium, but because of the lightning in the area, it's absolutely amazing.
As we let you go, Teresa, who do you need to see of all the players on this team? Who are you watching in this last month of the season thinking you need to show everybody something, including your bosses down there?
All the rookies. I mean, starting with Will Levis, obviously, because he's the quarterback. Peter Skoronski, Jalen Duncan, Tajay Spears. I want to see these rookies show that they can keep improving when the results are maybe not coming the way you'd hope to. Can they win some games down this stretch to finish out this season? Don't worry about the draft stock or where they end up picking. I know there are people wanting number one. Well, I can string off almost 5 first-rounders over the last 15 years that did not sign second contracts with this franchise. That doesn't matter right now. Get these guys executing, doing the things that they're being coached to do, showing improvement. If they can do that, that gives this team something to build on going into an offseason with so much cap space, more draft capital to help them get some more help.
Teresa, we know it's been a long and crazy and difficult day for you and a lot of people, and we appreciate you joining us today, and always appreciate your time when we can get it, and look forward to talking to you again soon, hopefully under much better circumstances.
Absolutely, guys. And yes, my condolences out to everybody who is feeling this because it does hurt.
Yes, ma'am. Teresa
Yeah, Miss
Walker.
T.
At Teresa M. Walker, you can follow her there for all the latest Titans and NFL and Grizzlies coverage. She covers everything and covers news for the ACP or for the Associated Press as well, and does a great job. You can see all that on her Twitter feed. All right, we'll come back. We've had people who have been holding in the entire interview for Teresa. If you'll hold through this break, we want to give you the last chance to get stories, anything out, feelings, anything you want to share about our friend Frank Wycheck. We'll go straight to the phones when we come back. 615-737-1045.
While you've been patiently preparing for the cooler overnight temps, your home's heating system may need some prep of its own. That's where my friends at Cool Ray can come in. They're hard at work preparing thousands of Tennessee residents for the cool down with a $49 furnace tune-ups. So think of your furnace tune-up like maintenance on your car. We all know what can go wrong if you neglect that, right? And if this is the year you finally need to fully replace your home's heating system, Cool Ray is armed and ready for the same day or next day installation, available on brand new Tim-Star home comfort systems. Plus, they boost a 10-year parts and labor warranty on the new unit. So schedule your $49 tune-up or any other heating, cooling, and plumbing or electrical related by visiting online at coolray.com. No phone call, no wait, no worries. You pick the date and time that works for you. That's coolray.com. But don't forget to put a live or artificial tree, never do this near a heating vent. Keep your family and home safe during the holidays. Straight from coolray.com.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. It has been an adventure on the show today. Doing our best to keep our emotions in check and to talk about our friend Frank Wycheck and to let you share your stories and anything that you missed. Anywhere you can consume podcasts, you can go back and find the podcast of the show today. And you can hear Eddie George, and you can hear Kevin Ingram and Teresa Walker, and you can hear phone calls from a whole lot of people who've checked in, like Cousin P, who's one of our Zone family here. I mean, if you listen to this station, we consider you family. That's the way it goes. So Cousin P wanted to weigh in on Mr. Frank Wycheck today. Thanks for the call.
Hey, thank you for taking it, and I feel the same way about you guys. We listen to you all the shows, and pretty much all throughout the day, and we do become family. We really do. For me, I'm one of those Gen 1 Titans fans. Watching Frank Wycheck just throughout his career, obviously the Music City Miracle. I remember going to school that next day, and I was just bouncing off the walls at school, because of what I had just seen. To me, Frank was more than a man. He was almost a superhuman, in my eyes. The closest thing we're ever going to get to Superman. And Blaine, all you guys, Steve, Samari Rowe, all those guys, man. Kevin Dyson, I looked up to you all growing up. Y'all were inspiration for me. So I was kind of understanding and feeling where Mrs. Walker was coming from when she said her son kind of only knows him from the show. I had the pleasure of watching Frank play and then also listening to him on the show. He's one of the reasons why I started listening to this station, just to get his input. And, it really breaks my heart to know that a Titans legend such as Frank, went down this way. You want to see these guys live out to a rightful old age, 89, 90 years old, and sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. So it really does break my heart. I pray that he somehow gets into the Hall of Fame at some point. I know his family would love to accept that honor on his behalf, and Blaine, I just want to if you've already went over this already, I apologize. I would love to get your personal take on what he was as a teammate to you guys. What it looked like to us, looking out from the outside looking in, was that, he was a phenomenal teammate and a phenomenal leader. So my condolences to his family, his children, his grandchildren, and to Titans Nation as a whole, man. He really meant a lot to us and this city. So I'll leave you all with that, man. Frank, we love you for always, man. And I know you and Eddie you and Steve are in heaven right now, throwing slant routes all day, man. So I'll leave it at that, man. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate the call.
Oh, yeah. Well, I definitely talked about Frank already as a teammate, but, just to finish up, trying not to get emotional, we were all workmanlike and team and brothers to brothers. And I think that's, why we had such a really good team. But the whole thing about our whole team was we were all down-to-earth, hardworking, individual people. And I think that's why we resonate. Not just because we were the first team and have success. I think those play a part in it. But we were out there and we were just normal guys. And I think people really appreciate that. And we didn't take that lightly. And we understood where we were as players. But I think we wanted everybody to know because that's who we were as human beings. And we had some star players, of course. But naturally, the genesis of all of that team was that we were all really blue-collar, hardworking guys that were no different than people doing their job. So I really think that just kind of resonated with the community. And to always be visible and not, put on this pedestal that we were some superstars or celebrities, you would say. So I think Frank was that guy, but he was magical on air, man, with his hey buddy and all the other stuff, man. So I think that took him to a whole nother level.
Our buddy CJ, who works here at the Zone in promotions and a longtime Titans fan, wanted to check in. CJ, hey buddy.
DJ.
What's up, Mickey? Blaine.
Hey, man.
What's going on?
So yesterday, obviously, getting the news about Frank's death, and it, quite honestly, just takes your breath away, man. Somebody so revered, somebody with such an impact left on this area, this community, and to myself as a whole. Blaine, I was 8 years old, just getting back from an errand day with my parents, wanting to watch the game and turning it on just as the Music City Miracle happens. And I think the indelible image that is left in my mind is Frank turning around and seeing that 89 plastered on his chest and the ball traveling to KD, who takes it the other way. So I want to say this to you. I want to say this to B-Hop, to Eddie, to Javon, to Greg Favors, to Marcus Robertson, all of you guys. You played such a pivotal role in my development, in my childhood, and you're the reason I became a football fan, the reason I became a sports fan, and ultimately listening to you guys, and now getting to work with you guys. It's why I wanted to get into broadcasting. So it's like losing a piece of your childhood, and it really feels the way that I felt the day that I found out that Steve McNair had passed away. And it is a piece of Nashville is missing, and I think we all feel it and we all see it, and the weight it hangs heavy on us. And I really think that the best way to honor his memory is to tell somebody that you love and somebody that you care about that you love them and that you are there for them. You just check up on your friends, and as Eddie so eloquently said, give people their flowers while they're still here. So I will do the same for all of you, and you are much appreciated by me. So that's what I wanted to give.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's very well said by CJ. There's like a hole in people's hearts today, and not just the people who really got to know Frank like you did, or me, who I used to love to talk music with him. I mean, we never talked about football. I talked about heavy metal music because he loved that. So I got to be cool to Frank because I knew all about Metallica, which made me feel cool. But all those people ever shook his hand or shook your hand, or they took pictures with you, or you signed an autograph or signed your jersey or anything. It's funny at the time. I watch you, and I know how you like to communicate and connect with people. It's one of the coolest things, Blaine, about working with you is watching you connect with people when we go places. That's why I like to go places with you, because I just like to watch you and Titans fans interact. But, Frank was a big part of that too. Always interacted with people, and anytime we were all together. And, like you said, he really was kind of an introverted guy, but when somebody want to come up and talk to him about the miracle, he'd tell the story again. Or, hey, music or wrestling, all the stuff that he liked. And the coolest thing maybe about all of this is when we're on the stage doing the pregame show, somebody walks up in a 23, or they walk by in a 9 or a 27 or an 89 or a 90. It just always makes me smile. It's got, and I know it does you too. I know you love it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But Frank, I think he was kind of our poster child of everything that represented that team, and really a true great human being. So, man, prayers up to Frank Wycheck.
Just like the Duke used to say it, Wycheck. Yeah. Well, we love you, Frankie.
Yeah, no doubt.
3HL's coming up next. They'll get you the rest of the way home. And, Brent worked with him, too. He'll have stories. Don worked with him. Ron has a great way of putting his spin on things, too. So I know they'll have a great show, and they'll continue to take your calls and talk about the great Frank Wycheck, who we are all going to miss.
No doubt. But in the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.